Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor
and his cousin
and his friend Jake
gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can find me on Twitter at Professor Sides. You can find my cousin Jared on Twitter at Cousin Jared, and our friend Jake on Twitter at myfriend_Jake. This college football episode wraps up all the games in week 8 of the 2022 season. We've covered the other games in episodes 1 or 2, so go back and catch those if you haven't yet. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. That's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new. You get your primer and explanation of what we're doing here. Otherwise, the goals for this episode are to share key information about these games, give you some things to think on, and explain why certain plays are being made. We never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with the score against us before investing your hard-earned money. We'll make a pick on every game, but you should take what you like and leave the rest. Remember, there are no locks in gambling, so what we provide are loves, likes, and leans. It is A, B, and C grade picks to indicate our confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. However, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as we'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every week, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, good to have you back on. We're surprised that you're sober by this time of week after your big win last week, and just figured you might still be hungover.
That was more than I could have ever asked for. And I had the greatest night of my life that night. It was everything I wanted to be and more. Singing Rocky Top at the local places was lovely.
I feel like I'm glad that Mrs. My friend Jake did not hear that comment, because I feel like she was
right along there with me.
she was in agreement with you.
Yep. The whole time.
All right. Well, before we get to today's show, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you are yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. As a reminder, I've also got that Patreon page if you're looking to get some extra benefits. Membership starts at just $3 per month. It gets you the play of the day, the plays of the day, any added picks that we make that we're unable to make on show because of line availability or movement, all sorts of other extra benefits, ad-free shows there if you're looking for those, access to our Discord chat, the best way to get questions answered for us, all sorts of stuff there. Check that out. The link is in the description. Otherwise, we'll get right to the games. All lines courtesy of Bet Online. Sign up link in the show description and current at the time of this recording on Wednesday night. All Saturday games here. We're going to start off with a doozy in Louisiana, Monroe and Army. Total on this one is 55.5. So I feel like Cousin Jared's already looking at that going, under maybe. Otherwise, these two teams not very good. Sideline has UL Monroe ranked 111th, Army 98th. Sideline says it should be Army minus 6.6. The actual spread is 6.5. So according to the model, this one is priced spot on. Cousin Jared, what do you have for us on this one?
I hate to start the show off this way, but I've got nothing. And
Yeah,
even the 55.5, like you could tell me that Army can put up, like 42 points in this game, and I would believe you. And so definitely it can be the opposite too. As we've already talked about in the episode earlier this week, as people who played the over in the Army UNLV game last week, we could also see how a game can just go under.
Air Force UNLV.
Yeah, Air Force UNLV. Yeah. You could see how a game could go under easily when the triple option starts going. You're just getting 4 yards every single play. So there is nothing about this game that appeals to me.
Yeah, I'm going to say Sideline says based off of the math, there's a slight edge to UL Monroe plus 6.5. I think that's also partially due to the current juice. I think it's like minus 104 or something like that. So we'll give that our official lean. But I'm like you, Cousin Jared. I feel like this is not a game I want to be invested in. So if you made me pick, I'm taking the points in a game that I don't know what's going to happen in, but otherwise not a play that I really encourage you, a listener, to make. Jake, do you have something to save us on this one? Do you have a take for us?
No, I have zero. I can't get a grip on UL Monroe. Every time I pick them to do one thing, they do the opposite. So I'm just going to stay far away from this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there too. And it's interesting. You wonder with some of these teams that happens. Is that going to settle in? And by the end of the season, is it one of those we're going to finally kind of feel what's happening and the season ends? Or are they just going to be confusing all season? But they're definitely on that list of, I mean, they're somewhere between very bad and extremely bad, and they kind of just oscillate between that, and that kind of throws things off. It's hard to know how bad they actually are, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll move on to noon Eastern. Indiana at Rutgers. Rutgers is a 3-point home favorite. Total is 48 in this one. Sideline says this should be Rutgers minus 3.4. mathematically, there's not really much of an edge on this one either side. Cousin Jared, do you have direction for us on this one?
Well, on the spread, I would definitely lean towards Rutgers, I think, because I think Indiana just doesn't play as well on the road as they do at home. When you think about how their season has gone, they've kind of stayed in a lot of the games at home, and they've just been the opposite on the road. They just haven't looked good at all. We may look back later in the season and think, and we know, again, I've already talked about this before, but how did Illinois lose? And I use that in air quotes because they didn't really lose. But how did Illinois lose that game to Indiana, the first game of the season, is beyond me. But I kind of like the under 48 in this spot because if Indiana wins this game, I think, best case scenario, it's going to be like 27-20. And if Rutgers wins this game, it could be like, I don't know, 20-14 or something like that. So I think maybe, do we want to give the under 48 a B grade?
I'm good with that, yeah.
Okay. There we go. Under 48.
All right, under 48 B grade, and then I'm with you. I would lean, I guess, Rutgers -3. I think 3's priced pretty well. It's more of those like a 3.5. I'd probably say I need to maybe smart 2.5. I like Rutgers a little more at 3.
Yeah,
I'm fine with taking Rutgers. I think it's pretty well priced, but I do think that under makes a lot of sense. It feels like a game that's going to struggle to get into the low 40s, and like you said, kind of that mid 40s seems like about the highest it's going to reasonably get to. And I wouldn't be surprised if this game settles in the 30s when it's all said and done.
Yep.
Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm playing Rutgers in the under. I really think that's the smart move. And Indiana's completely different teams when they leave Bloomington. And since this one's in New Jersey, I don't see a way they're going to really keep this one below a field goal. I was looking into it. This really surprised me. Indiana runs so many plays. It's just nuts how many plays they run a game. But they rank at 126th in yards per play. So I don't know that that's helping them.
It's the Northwestern thing. It's the Northwestern thing, right? Where it's like you're running a bunch of plays and you're not very good at them. That doesn't bode well.
Yeah. No. I mean, Rutgers actually averages more yards per play. Rutgers got a decent defense. Mm-hmm. I don't see IU. I don't see this game getting above 40 really, and so I'm going to play the under at Rutgers.
All righty. So we're all kind of aligned on that one, it sounds like. In noon Eastern, Iowa and Ohio State, I'm fascinated for the first half of this game because Ohio State has been clearly the best team in the country. And if any style, obviously, like Michigan's going to give them their best test of the season, right? And Penn State's going to give them, I guess, a test or whatever, right? Like we talk about the teams, and Iowa's below those teams, right? For sure. But Iowa's style of play being so different is one of those where that could either really backfire and this game could get ugly and be 49-zip, and I wouldn't be surprised, or like Iowa's style of play could keep them in this. Like I'm just really fascinated to see that the style clash here. Iowa just trying to do Iowa things and hang in this game. Probably not going to be successful, but I feel like at least Iowa doing Iowa things, they have a better chance of making this interesting than most of the teams at Iowa's talent level because Iowa does something really well, right, with that defense, the way they force turnovers, et cetera. So Sideline says this should be Ohio State minus 27.3. Actual spread is 30.5. According to the math, there is a small edge grabbing 30.5 points. I'd probably like 31 a little bit more.
Yeah.
Given how good Ohio State's been, though, it's hard to take the points with any amount of confidence. Total is 49. Cousin Jared, do you have a direction for us here?
Not really. It's funny that this spread lands where it did, because if you asked me what I thought the score of this game would be, I would say 38-7 feels about right, which would be exactly 31 points. So saying that, I guess I would, also think maybe the under, just because I don't see Iowa scoring very many points at all, but I'm not going to play an under against Ohio State. Like, that's just not a very smart move in my opinion. And you mentioned Iowa doing Iowa things. It takes one pump block and then get I say it takes one pump block that's going to get them 3 points. Is it going to get them 7? Maybe not.
Depends on where it might get them 2, depending on where it's blocked, right? that's true. 2, 3, or 7, or 0. If they block a punt at midfield, they might not go anywhere and they might punt from the plus 35.
Yeah. So I just don't have a good feel about any of this. Maybe Jake should be the tiebreaker here on which way we lean.
I'm not touching this. It's like this game could be 20-10, or it could be 95-0. I mean,
I'll take the under on 95.
Lord, I mean, what Toledo was getting 32.
Oh gosh, it's
at Ohio State. And I mean, you got Iowa getting the same amount of respect as Toledo, which is kind of
I think it's also about the style of plays, right? I think Toledo was just going to run a billion plays, right? And Iowa was not going to do that. But I'll say official. What you say, Jake?
I was going to say, I'd pay a lot of money for somebody in the first half to control my remote, and every time, like, they have to watch the game, but then every time Ohio State has the ball and I was on defense, to put that on, and then as soon as it flips the other way, take it off for me, so I don't have to watch the bad parts of this game.
There you go. I'll say official lean Iowa plus 30.5 because there's a lot of points, but only a C grade pick. I have no confidence in it, and I'm like you. I don't really want to touch this total either because part of me says, "Oh, Iowa under. Let's do it. It's been pretty profitable." But I'm with you with Ohio State. Like, yeah, they could easily put up 49 points themselves, and as good as the Iowa defense is, Ohio State offense is fantastic, and they can score in a hurry. And so if they put up 49 points, it's like, you're not loving that under. But also, I could see Iowa just slowing it down, grinding it to a halt, taking every bit of the play clock off, and grinding it in Ohio State winning, like you said, something like that 38-7 mark, which would go under. So total, I don't think is worth playing either. An interesting game to see how exactly it plays out. Ohio State should win. The question is by how much, but I don't think it's really investable at these numbers. Noon Eastern, Akron and Kent State. Akron ranked 129th. They are in that bottom three, and that bottom three is bad. Kent State in the hundreds, cannot get out of the hundreds at this point, not looking great. Sideline says it should be Kent State minus 16.2. So we're honestly in the same boat with Akron as we are with Iowa. According to the math, there is a small edge grabbing the points, but it's Akron. You can't feel that confident grabbing any amount of points with Akron. So is it one of those where it's on the right side of at least 17-18, grab the points in a mat game? Or is this one of those Akron's too bad, it doesn't really matter, we're not taking any points?
This falls squarely into you don't have to watch it to make the monies. But the problem is, I would say this isn't a huge investable opportunity, but I would definitely lean towards taking the points. I just have not been impressed with what I've seen from Kent State this season. Expecting their offense to put up a lot of points, and Miami, Ohio shut them down. And then last week against Toledo, they got into a track meet, which you would think would suit Kent State's style, and they got out ahead, and they just completely fell apart. And Toledo came back and won that game easily,
handily.
By the end of the game, you wouldn't have remembered that game was ever close. So this is more of, I have not liked what I've seen from Kent State at all. And so, I think there might be a little bit of value in grabbing the points, because even if Kent State gets out to a big lead, I think Akron can potentially have a backdoor cover.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's give Akron a B grade play. I think it's worth investing. I think it's at the right number here. Okay. On the right side of 17 and 18. I think it makes sense. I feel like Kent State is still getting a little bit too much respect from the Georgia game, and that's not what we've seen
from a loss.
Too much respect from a loss. Yes, exactly. So we'll give that a B grade pick. A total of 68. I personally don't have any feel for that.
Nope.
Yeah. All right, Jake, what do you have for us?
I'm also taking Akron plus the points. Everything you said is right. Kent State's not got the offense to put them away by 20. So I think this one stays, especially on this side of 17. I like that. I'm going to play the under here. This is kind of crazy that it keeps going up, because I locked it in personally at 67 or 67.5, and it keeps going up. And I'm like, okay. Because, I don't see Akron scoring too much. And, Kent State's had, 2 games that have gone over this where they allowed 52 to Toledo, and then where they scored 63 on Long Island. So I don't really see that happening. Akron's bad, but I don't think they're giving up 50 points to this Kent State team, and I don't see this battle getting above, both teams getting above 35 is like the winner's got to be around 35 for this. So I like the under here more so than I like Akron with the points, but.
All right. Sounds good. So you got double plays on that one. Jerry and I will take Akron as well. B grade pick on that for us. 2:00 Eastern, another MAC game here. Northern Iowa and Ohio. Northern Iowa is a 3-point road favorite. Sideline has both of these teams ranked in the hundreds as well. Northern Illinois at 102, Ohio at 115. mathematically a very small edge, taking Ohio and the 3 points, but not a big enough edge for me to demand that we take that side. Total 65.5. Cousin Jared, what do you have for us?
I completely agree. I don't think this is an investable play here, but I would lean towards taking the 3 points. We know Northern Illinois' affinity for playing close games. You could look at the total and say, what is 3 points really going to do for you in this game? But it's Maction. Ohio at home. Ohio can put up some points. So I'd say if you had to lean one way or the other, I'd recommend taking the 3 points.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Would you say it's investable at 3.5 or 4, or if it gets to that point, just take the money line at big plus odds?
I'd probably say 4, like maybe for 4. I would say that give that a B grade, but not a 3.
So we'll officially say Ohio +3 is our lean, but a C grade pick, not one that we want any backing behind. Jake, what do you have?
I'm actually going to take it. I like Ohio +3 here, and I'm going to take the over because, one thing, I'm mad at Western Michigan for being the first team ever to not score 20 points of this Ohio team. Like, what are you doing in your life? And no, it wasn't because Ohio's defense got good a week after giving up 34 to Akron. I just don't know what Western Michigan is doing with their lives right now. But I think Ohio keeps us close. I think this is a tight game going back and forth. I don't know if you've looked into it, but holy crap, is Ohio's run or pass defense bad. They're the last. So bad. They rank last. Yeah. It's not close. The run defense looks good at the metrics, but is that lack of opportunity?
I'm about to say it might just be teams are like, we don't have to run it.
I don't want to.
They know we're going to throw, and it doesn't matter. They can't stop it.
Yeah. But Ohio's offense is good enough that keeps them in games and wins them games. They're 25th overall, but in their last 3, they're ranked 10th, right behind Tennessee or right behind North Carolina and above Tennessee. So, I think there's plenty of points to be had in this. Northern Illinois can run the ball, but I don't see Ohio defense getting in the way whatsoever. So I think there's going to be tons of points, but I like Ohio to keep it close and this one to get over the 65.5.
Because Jared, you're always talking about this is now a Sun Belt show, and Jake is trying to make it a Mac show. I feel like
he is. Yes,
he watches more Mac than both of us combined. I feel like.
Way more.
It's so much fun. They're just it's the birthplace of college football plays.
We're getting close to when we have these Tuesday night Maction games, Wednesday night Maction games, and then that's when I'll start really figuring out the Mac because then it'll be able to watch. It's just I got like 6 screens on a Saturday every time slot. I can't see everything. I really do try, but it's just impossible. You have to make tough life choices. It's life's hard, right?
Yeah. Well, as Jake said, he didn't know what Western Michigan's doing with their life. Let's go to this next game, and we'll talk about a team with I don't know what they're doing with their life.
Yeah, I actually have something I'm arguing for on this one, so I'll see what your angle is.
Oh, God.
Eastern Michigan at Ball State, another MAC game. Ball State is a 2.5-point favorites. I think it says 2.4. So according to Sideline, pretty well priced, but a little bit of a mathematical edge on Ball State, given that we are thinking the most likely outcome, even if they average a 2.4-point win, based off the likelihood is a 3-point win. So that makes 2.5, maybe slightly advantageous mathematical play. Total on this one is 58.5. Cousin Jared, I assume you're going to say, what is Eastern Michigan doing with their lives?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. And the next thing I was going to say is I'm done with Eastern Michigan, so I'm not making a pick on any game involving them. So this needs to be a conversation between you two because I am just done with this.
But this time will be different, Cousin Jared. This time will be different.
Remember, they beat Arizona State. They did that.
They did that. And then they lost to Buffalo. And then they looked good. And then they looked terrible. And then they looked good. And I don't even know what's happening with this team anymore. All right, Jake. What is your angle on this game?
So I like Ball State here. I think they've got a good enough offense that they can take advantage for Eastern Michigan. if you look at that last game, they just let Whaley from Northern Illinois run for 9.9 yards a carry on 16 carries. That's what your safety is the only guy making a tackle, and the other 10 guys are just letting him go through. And it's their other running back had 5.1 on 17 carries that they just didn't get in anybody's way for 5 yards. And then every other play is a first down if they're running the ball every time. Carson Steele just ran for 179 yards in his last game. So, and I really like the Paddock Jackson combo. So I think there's enough offense here for Ball State to at least win this by field goal.
So, because Jared, I'm going to argue for Ball State as well. I'm hoping that Jake laid a foundation for me, okay, to get you warmed up to the idea. Yeah. Here's my angle in this game. Okay, Ball State is, I mean, for MAC standards, mediocre, right? Eastern Michigan, when you look at their season as a whole, let's just ignore that Arizona State game because we don't know what's going on to that. Right. They lost to Buffalo, which Buffalo's been playing really well. They barely beat UMass. They beat Western Michigan, but as we just talked about, like maybe Western Michigan just is terrible. Maybe that win wasn't that good. Last week, Eastern Michigan losing at home by 29. I think you can kind of start piecing this together and get a little storybook of, Eastern Michigan, we thought maybe they were better because of a couple of these things that look less impressive now. I think laying 2.5 makes a lot of sense. At 3, I don't think I would. But at 2.5, I think Ball State is an investable side. I would make the pitch to lay it with them as our last gasp on Eastern Michigan. And if Eastern Michigan wins this game outright, then we could be officially done. Can we make that deal?
Remember that there was all the rumors of the Arizona State staff handed out game plans too, so they might have known what was coming.
We don't know what was going on. That was such a weird situation. Yeah. Like I said,
and another game that we've referenced multiple times this season was Eastern Michigan and Louisiana when they had 5 turnovers in one half, and you thought that Louisiana got lucky in that game. Maybe Eastern Michigan's just bad because they had 5 turnovers in one half. They had 5 turnovers. They're a bad team.
Exactly right. It's like it's a little bit of both. It's like the turnovers is like some of it's luck, and some of it's also like but also good teams don't turn the ball over as much, and bad teams do. There's some of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I will make the deal. I will endorse laying the 2.5 points with Ball State. And if it blows up in our face, we're done with Eastern Michigan.
All right.
If anybody needs a lean for their pick 'em pull on Eastern Michigan, they got to go somewhere else.
You're just not even going to say a word. All right.
Before we leave this game, what do y'all feel about the total? I want to take the over, but then that requires trusting Eastern Michigan to do something.
I have no feel.
No.
Yeah, I think Eastern Michigan has shown competence and incompetence so much on offense and defense. I just don't know what they're doing at this point.
That's what I was like. I can't trust Eastern Michigan to do anything for me, so I don't think Ball State's getting me 60 points.
Right. And I just don't know what they're doing. I just think in general, Ball State at home ought to be able to win this game by a field goal. Yeah. So, official pick for us then, Ball State minus 2.5. B, great pick. This is our last chance to play Eastern Michigan. If it fails us, we're done with them forever, or at least the rest of the season. 2:30 Eastern, UNLV at Notre Dame. This number keeps jumping. It was 24 for the early part of the week. Now it's Notre Dame by 27. Sideline says it should be 23. UNLV just maybe we thought maybe they were looking better, and then all of a sudden the last several weeks they've just looked worse and worse and worse. But I don't have a lot of faith in Notre Dame either, and I sure don't have a lot of faith in Notre Dame winning by this big of a number. At 27, I really think that's too far. There will be field goals in this game. So it's not like, we got to get full 28 for the value. I think there's enough value here in UNLV at plus 27. I think you have to just say it's too much. And the other reason I say that is part of the reason I built the model, and I think this will come up in another game later when we talk about it. Part of the reason I built the model is to say, we are trying to react appropriately. And sometimes the spreads do a really good job of reacting appropriately. Sometimes they don't react enough, and sometimes they react too much. I think this is too much of an overreaction on UNLV being bad. Notre Dame, I'm just not sure that they've got the horses to beat anybody by this amount of points. 27 just seems like a lot. So I'm going to argue to take the 27 with UNLV. Total is 47.5. Old school UNLV, like we thought earlier in the season, you would say this is a fun clash of styles, but now I just think this is going to be a sad game, and I'm not sure we can even get to 40 points. Jared, what do you think?
I guess I would ask, that Air Force game, we both watched way too much of that game last week.
Yeah.
Can't Notre Dame just do basically exactly what Air Force did, except from the shotgun, instead of running the triple option, just running it up the middle for 5 yards every play? Like, why would Notre Dame not watch the film on that game and just say, I'm going to run it right up the middle for 6 yards every single play, and UNLV's not going to be able to stop me?
And I have an answer for you. We did not script this conversation. We didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I do have an answer for you off the top of my head, just right off the reaction is, what happened with BYU and Notre Dame, and what happened with BYU and Arkansas? Arkansas was just able to pound it down their throat and could not be stopped on the ground against BYU. Notre Dame didn't have that much success running the ball. And that's the thing is I think that, and not that Air Force is as good of a running team necessarily as Arkansas is, but the style, the gimmick, whatever can be. And I just think we saw when you look at the BYU comparison there, Notre Dame just isn't able to, they're just not talented enough. I mean, there's a reason Sideline has them ranked down to 36th, right? They just don't have enough talent to go out there and just run all over them, or else they would have done it against BYU. Everybody else is at this point.
That's true.
And so I think you're right in that's what they would try to do. But if Notre Dame had done that to BYU, then I would be like, absolutely. But I'm not convinced they can. I think they can on occasion, but not enough to win by 28 is, I guess, my pitch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel good about it, but if you feel so led that this should be a B grade play on UNLV, then we can do that. I
do. Let's lock that as a B grade play. Plus 27 on UNLV. Jake, what do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to take it to it. When it opened around like 24, I was like, I don't trust Notre Dame to score 24 points in a game, let alone beat somebody with 24. And so I was going to stay away from it. And then I saw the jump to 27. I was like, there's no way that Notre Dame scores 4 touchdowns. I mean, then that's a shutout. Like, UNLV gets a lucky touchdown or 3 points somewhere, and now you're needing 30. I don't trust Notre Dame to do this. And I mean,
or UNLV gets a turnover. Like that's what was that fueled the Marshall wins, all those turnovers, right? Like all they get is a turnover in a short field, and UNLV can put up 10 points.
And hopefully UNLV's coaches watched the same film on the Air Force game and it was like, hey, maybe we were calling the defense as bad. Maybe it wasn't just our players. And then they fixed that. So, I mean,
or it could be
– fix is a strong word.
You're right. You can't fix things like that in a week. But we do talk about, like, you can have all the time you want to prepare for the triple option, but if you don't have the players in practice on the scout team to run that well – you're not prepared for it. And they were not prepared for that triple option whatsoever. And thankfully for them, Notre Dame will not be running that. So you have to hope that UNLV can at least have a good week of practice and say, we can put that out of our minds because thankfully we don't have to deal with that again the rest of the season. We can just go play normal style football teams and stop that. Because Jared, total 47.5. I would lean under. I feel like it's got to be 48 though. Is 48 a buy? 48.5 or is 48 fine?
48.
48. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on this one. If we get to under 48, that'd be a buy point for a B grade under for us as well. I just see 48 being very, very possible in this one. Cause like I said, I think there's just a couple field goals, some touchdowns and want to make sure we get the push in that scenario. But I do think under's the way I would lean in this game because I don't really trust UNLV to score that much. And I don't trust Notre Dame, kind of like Jake was saying, maybe 4 touchdowns. That seems about like the most, right? If they got more than like 31, I feel like I'd be pretty surprised in this game.
Yep.
3:30 Eastern, y'all. Look, hey, we gotta win in a Memphis game. I feel like we just mic drop and we just leave. We don't ever talk about Memphis again, other than we have said we have committed to talking about every game on the show. Otherwise, I just feel like we're done. We got one. We can move on with life. It's like we've checked off the list, of our bucket list when it came with Memphis and not be. Even though we almost got screwed, they tried to.
They tried very hard. Yeah,
they tried very hard. Maybe that's broken the curse. Tulane is a 7-point favorite. I've loved this Tulane team all season, basically. I think I backed them seemingly every week, other than maybe once I zigged. So it was a little bit of an overreaction. Otherwise, I've been on Tulane a lot. Total is 56.5 on this one. Sideline says it should be Tulane minus 7.5. Got Tulane ranked 40th, Memphis ranked 59th. Because Jared, what do you think on this one?
Man, if I had to lean one way or the other, I mean, I think this is a well-priced line. If I had to lean one way or the other, I think I would lean towards Tulane just because they've been more consistent this season. Like you mentioned, Sideline has kind of been on them, and Sideline has seen something that I think, at least I have it most of the time. The other thing is I have watched enough Memphis football and lost enough money on Memphis football to tell you that Memphis will do something that will be dumb and kind of give this game away at some point. And so kind of with those two things in mind, I would definitely be comfortable laying the 7 points if that's kind of where your mind was headed to.
I'm good with that as a B grade pick, laying the 7. Okay. I think when I look back to last week, I was surprised at the spread between Memphis and East Carolina. And we were all, I think, on Memphis on that one. Yeah. I think Tulane's just a much better team than East Carolina. And Memphis should have won that handily, but they did the thing to screw it up at the end, like they kind of do. They do that to Tulane, they're going to lose by 14. And that's where I'd rather it be 6. I think to me 6, maybe 5.5. Either one of those numbers is A grade territory.
Yep.
At 7 or at 6.5, I like it. I still think I'd play it as a B grade pick, but like I said, comfortable backing Tulane. Wish it was a little lower, but yeah, B grade pick for Tulane -7 for me works well. Because on the total 56.5, you've gone many rounds deep with the Memphis total.
Bloody.
Yeah. Yes. I've been beaten to a pulp at this point on those things. And see, join our you become a Patreon member, join our Discord. I will tell you how every single Memphis game will play out. And I told you that game would go to overtime because that is the only way that I could possibly lose both of my plays, taking the points with Memphis and having the under there. And so fortunately, the spread, I was able to get that one, but I lost the under once it went to overtime. So I'm not messing with the total on this one.
If I have 2 thoughts on that. First off, yes, if you're on the Discord there, you can it's live betting. You got to be a live better. But Cousin Jerry can map out in game how it's going to play out. He's done it like 3 weeks in a row with Memphis. We did it last year too. There was no Discord last year, but during our group text, like you were doing the same thing because Memphis did the same nonsense last year. My second thing on this one is, obviously I look at this total, I'm thinking hard under. Like I'm like, this is above 55. This is an under situation. Memphis is an under team other than their shenanigans. Tulane's got a good defense. But then I start thinking to myself, you know what? Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 917 times. Like Memphis and their
about
shenanigans.
How many times it's been.
Yeah. Do you just say go over with Memphis because something wonky is going to happen? There's going to be big plays. And that's just at some point you have to stop and you have to say, like, sometimes there's bad luck and dumb luck, but sometimes it's just that's who Memphis is. They're a team that will lull you to sleep for a quarter and then have a quarter where stuff just goes crazy. And it seems to happen every game. So at some point, do you just flip and just say, take the over?
Yeah, I would lean towards the over if I had to pick one way or another on this one.
Yeah, like I said, to me, just watching these two teams, I'm like, this feels like an under. But yeah, just knowing that Memphis has that quarter, that's just like built into their DNA. It seems like it doesn't seem fluky anymore. It seems like a character trait of they have stretches where they bust plays open and they get plays busted open, and it just seems to happen every game. And when you do that a couple times and points happen like that, it's hard to go under any reasonable number.
Which, God, we spent way too much time on this game, but which is why I have played so many unders, because so many of those things, giving up the big plays, getting the big plays, are things that in general you're not going to be able to replicate as often. And so that was kind of why I always thought there was value on under. But at this point, like, we've seen it enough times to say that, like, that's who they are. That's who they are. And so, yeah, I would lean towards the over if I had to pick one way or the other.
All right, so we'd lean over. We're not going to play it, though, but we do have a B grade pick on Tulane -7. Jake, we've talked long enough about this game. Do you have anything for us?
I got nothing to add. I'm not playing it till I see 6.5 because I just, for some reason, Memphis has got me worried that they're going to do something and it's going to end up at 7. So
yeah, you should be worried. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for 6.5. If 6.5 happens, I'll play it. But
it doesn't really matter what it is. Memphis is involved. You should be worried. Yes, absolutely. 3:30 Eastern, Georgia Southern and Old Dominion. Old Dominion is a short 2.5-point favorite here. Southern's got Georgia Southern ranked 76th, Old Dominion 85th. Sideline says that the road team is the better team here. According to the spread would indicate that these two teams are about even, but Sideline thinks that Georgia Southern is the better team, and thus this should be pretty close to a pick'em. Chris and Jared, my pitch would be either let's take the 2.5 for Georgia Southern if we think it's going to get wonky, or a total 67. Maybe take a money line here, plus like a 110, 115, something like that on Georgia Southern. I've liked them. I've backed them a decent amount of times this year. I think they're a pretty good team. I think they can go on the road and get the victory. What do you think?
I think, and if what I'm seeing correctly here is plus 2.5 even money, I would lean towards taking the 2.5 points with the even money there. If it was down to 2 and it was land minus 105, minus 110, I'd say look at the money line at that point. But if we can get 2.5 and get even odds with all of the crazy things we've seen with extra points and 2-point conversions and God knows everything else that we've seen happen in college football this season, I think 2.5 at even money, we can give that a B grade.
Okay, money line's plus 125, by the way, so I undershot that. But I'm good with that as well. Obviously, even money on a play is good. Getting point. If this goes 3 overtimes, right, we should be set. So, yeah, B grade then for us on the plus 2.5 even money on Georgia Southern. Like I said, I think they go on the road and get the win. Or, maybe it's a shootout and late someone goes for 2, and then we're like, great, go for 2, win by 1. We don't care. Yeah. We've got 2.5 points in our pocket. Total is 67, so we're expecting some points here. Georgia Southern definitely has an offense. Old Dominion, Old Dominion is a team that seems to play with their opponent. Their opponent slows it down, they slow it down. Their opponent goes fast, they go fast. The Southern wants to go fast. Can this game get to 7 points?
Man, you just have a hard time going over a number like 6-7 with Old Dominion. I just don't think I could get there.
What number could you buy in at the over at?
Probably like 65 is where I would feel a lot better about it at.
Okay, against Liberty they got to 62. Against Coastal they got to 70. So they have played some higher scoring games against both Virginia and Virginia Tech. They played lower scoring games. Again, they do tend to kind of just play the type of game that you're going with them. And I feel like this game gets a lot. What number did you say again? 60 what?
65.
65. Okay, so if it gets 65, we will go on the over on that one. I think I would lean over. It's just it is a high number, so we can say we lean over, and that doesn't mean it's really a great investment. It could just be a mediocre investment or something like that. Or again, that's the way we lean. If you also like that, maybe that little lane that we have is enough to push you over the edge. But we personally just want a little bit extra cushion on that to go along with our Georgia Southern plus 2.5 B grade pick. Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, nothing. It's two teams I can't get the handle on this year. So I'm going to stay away from them. Like, I'm thinning my list out here because, man, I'm having trouble getting a hold of some of these small teams. I'm going to work on my Maction stuff and leave some of these smaller schools out of my
Hey, if you could come in and be the Maction guru, I think people would find value in that. That would be a nice angle for you. A little niche to fill. Also, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. North Texas at UTSA. North Texas is a team for me that I feel like I don't know what the heck they're doing. They've gotten back inside the top 100 now, barely at 97th. UTSA is ranked 70th. So that says it should be UTSA by 10.5 or 11. So maybe a slight lean there, but when you look at mathematically about the commonality of final score outcomes, sideline would actually go slightly the other direction. So according to the math and sideline, it doesn't really have any direction for us. So it's going to give us no help in this game. Total is 73, so expecting a lot of points. Cousin Jared, which way do you lean on this one?
No way. This feels like a really well set line. I guess I would lean towards laying the 10 points just because I think that UTSA is going to be able to put up a lot of points in this game. I think the bigger piece of information that I would have for you, viewer and listener, here is that you see a really big number like this at 73. And let me tell you, wouldn't play the under here. There is almost no number that you could set this at where I would play the under. I don't know if you could talk me into playing the over, but there is in no world where you should play the under in this game.
Okay, I'm going to let Jake talk, and then I'm going to do my best to talk you into over 73 and see if I can succeed.
All right, sweet but Jesus. Okay.
All right, Jake, have at it.
This is like copy and paste. I can't figure North Texas out with what they're doing. I mean, the last two games they've kind of impressed, but UTSA has looked better all year. So 10 is, man, I can't get to it because under 10 I would probably play UTSA, and then over if I got to like 12 or 13 I would lean North Texas, and then I'm adverse to playing over 70. Anything in the 70s I'm adverse to playing that because everything has to be too perfect. So that's where I'm at. I'm not playing anything on this one.
All right, because Jared, you ready?
Let's do it.
My tallest task of the week right here. I don't have to sell you on UTSA, right? You know that they can score.
Yeah.
Put up points, right? That's it. North Texas is the one I want to focus on here because, Jake, I hear you about everything has to go perfect. And I think I would have said the same thing, but let's back this up a little bit. I'm going to go back to the third game of the season. UNT played a game against Texas Southern. It was Texas Southern, but there were 86 points in it. That's a lot of points. Next week they played UNLV. There were 85 points, and that's also a lot of points. Things aren't having to go right. This is just how they are, right? 85 points in that one. Next week, North Texas plays Memphis. That game had 78 points in it. That goes over 73. The next week, and this is what I want to focus on, the next week they played Florida Atlantic, and it got to 73 on the dot. Isn't UTSA a higher scoring team than Florida Atlantic? And then to finish this off last week, they got to 74 against Louisiana Tech, which is probably, again, not as good of a team as UTSA. I get what you're saying, because, Jake, I'm with you. Everything has to go right, it feels like, for these games. But you look at North Texas, and they've gone over this number literally however many weeks that was in a row. And UTSA is an over team. This number is too low. I think we go over 73.
Okay, let's do it. You had me at Florida Atlantic. Got to 73.
That's where I was going to focus on. You're with it too?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I've convinced everyone. All right. It's just what North Texas does. They just play these psycho games, which is so crazy given how they finished last season. It's like they just did and started the first 2 games this season in about face. And it's fun, but it's also just like, it's just like being on drugs at a football game because you're like, it's just chaotic. There's just chaos everywhere. There's just people flying around. It makes for fun watching, but a lot of points. So we'll go B grade over 73, a big number. I think it goes over. And then I'm. What did you say your lean was? Because I have no feel for the side on this one. You think
I would lean towards laying the points, but whatever. Man, this is going to be on Stadium. I got to figure out how to watch Stadium because this could be an exciting game for sure.
Download the free Stadium app.
There you go. And
they're not paying us.
They're not paying us.
All right, we'll go official lean on that one. UTSA. I think that also plays into the over because North Texas is going to. If it's a tight game, there might be some slowing down at the end. But if UTSA is up 20, North Texas is going to be going crazy at the end and trying to put up points. And then the defense is going to get more aggressive, and that's going to lead to more points. So I think it kind of plays in that. So I'm fine with the lean as a C grade pick to UTSA -10, and then again B grade pick on the over 73. Florida International at Charlotte. Hey, we got a big win with Florida International last week. That was a lot of fun. They are still ranked dead last according to Sideline. Charlotte's ranked 120th. Sideline says 14.4. The actual number is 14.5. Total 63.5. Can we set a record for the shortest game ever and what we've talked about? Because I mean, why?
Wait, you don't want to lay the 14.5 points with Charlotte? With Chris Reynolds back, I mean, I feel like we've got a couple of games of like terrible data from Charlotte because they've been completely different, in my opinion. Not completely different. They're not very good, but their offense has been much better.
I just hate the hook. The hook just makes me sad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it makes me feel uncomfortable too. But I don't think this is getting to 14, right? I mean, is this something we want to say? Let's wait to see if it gets to 14, and then we'll play it at 14.5 later in the week if it doesn't move.
I'm fine with that. So we'll go ahead and lock in the C grade pick today. So that's a zero play.
Yeah.
That's the side we want to be on. I'm with you. I wish it was 14, but I could be talked into what you're saying is you think, obviously we talked about the Charlotte quarterback situation. We talked about that throughout the season now. You're saying you think you'd still lay 14.5 as a B grade pick. It's just maybe if it can get to 14, it's even better.
Yeah, and for me, there's a very short window here between like A grade and B grade. It's like A grade at 14, and if it got down to like 13 or 12.5, for sure, I would say A grade because like I think that Charlotte with Reynolds at quarterback is going to put up a lot of points, and I just don't trust FIU to keep up.
So where's your lowest A grade play then?
Lowest A grade. You may be able to talk me into
or highest.
I mean, 13. I think that it's very thin margins here on this game.
Okay, I don't see it getting to 14 personally, but if it does, that's even better. But that's fine for us, and then we'll play it as a B grade pick up to 16.5.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll have a B grade pick. We're going to lock in a C grade pick for now and just kind of see where the number goes on Charlotte. Florida National is terrible. They covered last week because the number was so dang huge. But Charlotte if Charlotte wants to, they can win this game by 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Jake, what do you have?
I'm not convinced Florida International is playing actual football yet. But I'm not laying the hook scares me away. So I'm not laying that yet. I'm waiting for 14, but golly, what is Florida International? Figure it out.
Hey, they covered last week. Come on, give them some credit. They won the only place that matters in the sports book.
Yeah.
All right. 4 p.m. Eastern. Arizona State at Stanford. Stanford is a 3-point home favorite. Sideline says 3.1, so another game that's priced pretty well. Sideline ranks Stanford 68th, Arizona State 71st. I mean, I have questions about both these teams.
Yep, lots of questions.
That's what I'll leave it. I have lots of questions about both these teams. Because Jared, do you have an angle? Total 54. Do you have an angle for us or any of that?
Nope. I would lean towards taking the 3 points though, because I think Arizona State had a bye week last week. I think, and so I think just having an extra week to prepare, potential letdown spot for Stanford after the victory over Notre Dame. Yeah. A game where you don't know what's going to happen. I'd lean towards taking the points.
And anything on that total? I mean, that Stanford Notre Dame under was easy.
It was really easy.
The question is Arizona State, and what are they going to come out and try to do with the rest of the tempo?
Yeah, I have no idea. And as I've talked about many times this year, like Stanford is like the god of if there's garbage time, Stanford is going to find a way to score in garbage time. So I think I would definitely lean towards the under, but like I don't feel great about that.
I think I would lean under as well. Probably 155 would be my buy point on that. Arizona State, what they've done. I mean, they got into a shootout with Washington. They played a higher scoring game against USC. We said USC can play all sorts of different games. I mean, they only put up 13 against Utah, and Utah's defense not nearly as strong as we thought it was. And Arizona State in that game seemed like they were moving backwards half the time. So it feels more like a lower scoring game. I mean, you might could talk me into under 54 if you felt strongly about that, if you did any research and really like that. But if not, I could say 55. 55 would be my buy point then.
Yeah, sure.
Under. I'm down taking the 3 with Arizona State. That's just a lean for you, though, just a C grade pick.
Just C grade.
3.5 a B grade pick. 4. 3.5 B grade pick or 4.
Man, yeah, but I would probably say 4 because, like, okay, if you go past 4, your next logical thing to say is 6, and it's like 6 just seems like that'd be a lot of value there. So I think I would say B grade at 4.
Okay, so we'll lean taking the 3 points with Arizona State. And I outlined this a couple of weeks ago, right? Arizona State's schedule set up for them to kind of at least make a little bit of a rebound here with the bye week, playing a weaker team, right? Who knows if that'll happen, but at least it is possible there. Like I said, a little bit of a letdown spot for Stanford, but we're looking for +4 before we make that an official investment. And the under makes a lot of sense, but we'll see if we can get a 55 for that one, that being such a key number to go under that. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite here. I kind of like Stanford, but if this game was last week or next week, I would be all over them taking the -3. But I mean, Notre Dame's not a great team this year, but that's still a big win.
But that's a big rivalry.
Yeah, it's a big win for them. So I'm too worried about the letdown spot here, even at home. And Arizona State can put up some stuff, so I don't put up some points every once in a while. And so I don't like the total either. I'm staying away from this one, but man, I want to take Stanford. I'm just fighting myself on it because I know it's too big of a letdown spot.
Yeah, I would agree. I will say that Stanford 2 weeks ago only losing by 1 to Oregon State. Now Oregon State had some injury issues there. Then winning against Notre Dame. If Stanford comes out and wins this game by 2 touchdowns, you have to look at Stanford's schedule and say maybe we were just a little bit lulled to sleep because their second game of the year was a conference game against USC, their third game of the year conference game against Washington, fourth game of the year conference game against Oregon, 2 of those 3 on the road. So it could be that Stanford's actually not terrible. We just have a little bit of a different opinion based off that schedule.
I think I made that point last time. I said like they've played 3 or 4 conference games so far, and man, it's been the top of the top tier there. So maybe they're not as bad as what we think, but I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird spot.
It's a tough spot.
I want to watch this one. Yeah,
it's a tough spot for sure. And like we said, Arizona State coming off a bye. It's like the perfect setup for a letdown spot here and for an upset. 4 p.m. Eastern, Florida Atlantic at UTEP. Florida Atlantic is a 3.5-point favorite. FAU is ranked 95th, according to Sideline. UTEP 117th. So that says it should be Florida Atlantic -5.2, but getting over the 4 isn't enough to make this a hugely profitable play, according to the math. So if we're playing this, it's because we like laying the 3.5. Total is 51. Cousin Jed, what do you got?
I propose that we go with B grade on the under 51 here. When you look at UTEP's schedule, so don't get distracted by their last 2 games where they played Louisiana Tech and Charlotte, 2 of the better offensive, worst defensive team in the country. If you go back before that, their games had 37, 37, 33, 44 the first game of the season. The Oklahoma game, even with Oklahoma's offense there, only had 58 points. So I think that the under 51 is going to get a B grade for me. And I know you said Sideline would favor Florida Atlantic here, but I think I would lean towards taking the 3.5 points just because I think this is going to be a low scoring game. And so I would just lean towards taking 3.5 points in a game like that.
I'm fine with that. Like I said, it's not actually a positive edge according to the math on either side, that the juice actually overcomes it and has a negative edge on both sides. So I'm fine with a lean, taking the 3.5 with UTEP. At 3.5 is pretty well priced. 3.5 or 4, either one I think would be pretty well priced. At 3 is a different story, of course, but at 3.5, I have no feel. So I'm fine with a lean there on UTEP. I'm good with the under 51. The other thing I was going to say about the under 51 that I like about this is, hey, we just talked about Florida Atlantic only getting to 73 points with North Texas, and that's North Texas low in the last month and a half. So, I mean, if that game only got to 73, this game's going to have like 12 points in it probably. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, me and UTEP aren't getting along right now, so I'm not going to play on the side. But I like the under. Also, I was looking at that, and like Jared literally read from my notes, is you can't pay attention to the last two because those teams have terrible defense and great offense, or not great offense, but relatively great offense
for that conference.
Yeah. So I think the under is a safe, smart play here.
Jake, I feel like, you're talking about some of these teams that you're having problems with. I need you to drop in some like Taylor Swift lyrics about these teams. I feel like that would take this show to the next level. If you could express your frustrations with them via some Taylor.
I'll work on that for next week. All
right.
We'll see what I can come up with.
All right. 5 p.m. Eastern, Arkansas State at Louisiana. Louisiana is a 6.5 point favorite right now. So this should be Louisiana up -5. I think we bottomed out with Louisiana. I think we've kind of figured out where they roughly are this season. A huge step back from last season. Sideline has them ranked 79th. Probably not going to fall out of the top 100, but they are going to be in the bottom of that set of teams. Arkansas State up to 90th. Two respectable teams. Two teams that obviously, though, in the middle tier of the Sun Belt West. Total on this one's 51.5. Cousin Jared, what is your direction on this game?
I would note, where we're pulling lines right now, this is +6.5 even money. So I would give a B grade to taking the 6.5 points in this situation. And the reason that I say that is I go back and look at Arkansas State's schedule, and if you just kind of look at who they've played, okay, forget their FCS game, forget the Ohio State game. Memphis can put up some points. They weren't able to hang with Memphis. They lost by 10. Old Dominion, we talked about wanting to play, whatever style that you play. Only lost to Old Dominion by 3. They beat Louisiana Monroe, James Madison, good team. They weren't able to hang with James Madison. And they lost Southern Miss last week. They only lost by 1. So where I'm getting at with this is I don't think that Louisiana is in the class of James Madison or Memphis, really. I think they're a step below that. And all the teams that are below that Arkansas State has played this year, they have either won or lost by less than 1 score. So I think you're getting some value with 6.5, especially even money. So I would say let's give that a B grade.
I'm actually going to argue this for an A grade for 2 reasons. Number one, it is the strongest mathematical edge of all the games this entire episode. It is over the threshold where the plays have started to do a little bit better. So I'm going to argue for an A grade pick because of that. And also, I think it's the only chance for an A grade this whole episode. So we got to give the people something here. So I'm going to argue A grade on Arkansas State +6.5 because it's even money. Or if you shop around and you're laying the -110, you should be able to get +7, which would also be A grade, even if it was -115 or something like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, and then total 51.5. I feel like this is an under, but do we need 52 or do we actually need 55?
I don't know if I'm ever going to say play an under in an Arkansas State game. This is going to be you talk about the clash of.
I just think about Louisiana. Oh, that's true. That's true. I just think Louisiana. I've seen enough Louisiana. Like, unless there's turnovers, I don't think they could score points. Like, I feel like they just drag you into this ugly game this year. So that's why I said But you're right. It is the clash of styles. But I just have no faith in Louisiana doing anything that involves points.
I guess I would. It just hurts being on the south side of 52.
For sure. I wouldn't do under 51.5. I'm saying 52, 52.5, 55. That's what I'm kind of saying. What would be?
Yeah. If it got to 55, definitely look at the under. 52.5. You'd probably be able to convince me to play the under 52. I don't know. It's Arkansas State, man.
It is. I just look at the Rice game got to 54, and that's the high for Louisiana, other than that Eastern Michigan game, which had a floppity billion turnovers. Since that game, the last 3 Louisiana games, 38 points, 37 points, 36 points. I mean, I guess this one has to have 35. We can predict it. 35 points.
There you go.
Lock it in.
35 points exactly in this game based off the trend. I'm with you, though. It is Arkansas State, so I definitely at least want 52, 52.5.
Yeah.
A grade pick for us on Arkansas State plus 6.5 at the even money. Or I think it might have even been plus 105. It was one of the two. But
it was plus 105. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but some really good odds on the plus 6.5, or at a different book if you're getting a plus 7 at different odds, also an A grade. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, this is probably my favorite play of the weekend, taking Arizona State or Arkansas State. Yeah, wrong A State. I feel like Southern Miss and Louisiana are trying to play the same kind of style, and that was a 1-point game. And I think Arkansas State's getting a little underrated by the sports books and everything here. Like I don't know. They've hung with teams this year. It's not like their defense was letting them get absolutely wiped to the floor with like it's normal. But so I really like this under a touchdown, and the plus money is just so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. Fresno State and New Mexico, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, kick total at 39.5. And look, y'all, don't play the over. Whatever you do, don't play the over. Fresno State is an 11-point favorite. Look, last week, improved. New Mexico, I don't know. Not terrible. I mean, this game is just depressing to me. Sideline says it should be Fresno minus 11.1. So 11 is pretty spot on. Cousin Jared, do you have any insights for us on this one?
I am concerned after New Mexico never sniffed the cover against New Mexico State last week. I know it's a rivalry game, but I've got some concerns is what I would say. And, we've talked ad nauseum about how the Mountain West is just not very good this season, but I was glad to see Fresno State come out and beat San Jose State, because I would have thought that San Jose State would have run away with that game last week after what we've seen from Fresno State the past couple of weeks. So I'm wondering if Fresno State has maybe kind of getting their crap together a little bit and kind of learning how to play without Hainer. But man, I just don't think 11 points. You couldn't get me to lay the 11 points here. This feels like maybe an over. I can't believe I'm saying this. Maybe an overreaction in New Mexico losing to New Mexico State. God, this is so sad.
It is so sad.
I think I would lean towards taking the 11 points. I think
you would take the 11 or lay the 11.
I think I would take the 11 because, I mean, what has Fresno State shown us on offense without Hainer that makes me think that they would be able to get outside of this number? Because I think that, New Mexico can score 10. And so are we saying that Fresno State's going to score, 24 points?
New Mexico couldn't score 10 against New Mexico State.
I don't know. I know. It's just –
You could not convince me. You could not convince me to take 11 points in this game. And here's why. I'm going to outline this for you here. I'm going to make my pitch for Fresno.
I can already tell that you're more passionate about this than I am. So whatever you want, we'll do.
Folks, we're recording a little later than usual tonight. So because Jared's like, I got to go to bed. Here's my pitch for Fresno is I think last week, we saw maybe they're kind of figuring some things out. They're kind of learning the new offense, play call it, whatever, all that other stuff, blah, 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 right? New Mexico is a team that the model has been on and liking. And the last 3 weeks, now we faded New Mexico against LSU. That worked, fading New Mexico. The next week, New Mexico lost to UNLV, who, as we talked about, has just been a disappointment ever since then. They lost to UNLV by 11. At this point, I would say Fresno and UNLV aren't drastically different. Why wouldn't they lose to 11 by them? Against Wyoming, they had a lead against Wyoming, and then Wyoming was like, oh, hey, we can just embarrass you. And Wyoming won by 13 on the road. Last week, New Mexico lost by 11 to New Mexico State. Like, if New Mexico was actually losing these 3 games by a combined 14 points, I would say sure, but they lost all of them by 11 or more.
Right.
I think Fresno State's as good as those teams. And again, I like the direction Fresno State's going. This is that situation where the model doesn't know what to do with Fresno because of Hainer and then the injury and all that stuff, and then coming in the middle of the game, and then Fresno looking so bad, and then last week it doesn't know what to do with them. And like I said, the model's kind of like New Mexico and hanging on, thinking they're decent. I look at this team and I think they're just garbage. So I mean, I would lay the 11 with Fresno. And I just don't know if I'd give it a B grade or a C grade. I think my question is just, when you look at this more of a fade of New Mexico than anything else. And Fresno still has more talent than New Mexico. And if New Mexico lost by that much to New Mexico State and UNLV, why can't Fresno do the same? It would be my question.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you lay it out like that, sure. Let's do a lean, a C grade on laying the 11 points. Because yeah, I mean, I think if you take away New Mexico's 17-point win over UTEP, the third game of the season, you could just look at it and be like, yeah, New Mexico has just been awful this year.
Yeah. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm just going to pour one out for the season that could have been with Fresno. I think they had a chance to do something special with Hainer, and then,
especially with how weak the Mountain West is.
Yeah. They could have been up there. I mean, they had a chance. Was it Oregon State? I can't remember early in the year. But they've had a chance to win that game, and then like you were thinking, oh, this Fresno team could be good, and then the injury happens and the bottom fell out.
Yep.
Fresno still should make a bowl game at this point. Hainer's coming back. Some of their defensive players are getting healthy. But they do have 2 wins on the season. They should win this one for a third. They get Hawaii at home for a fourth. They play at Nevada. That would be a 5th win. And then they just got to win one of San Diego State, UNLV, or Wyoming to get to 6 wins. I mean, 6 wins is still on the table, make a bowl game, salvage the season. But yeah, they could have absolutely been 10-2 and just couldn't get it together, and the injury and the exit things just going south for them. 8 p.m. Eastern, Pittsburgh at Louisville. Louisville is a 2.5-point favorite. Sideline says Louisville should be a 1.2-point favorite. Sideline thinks Pittsburgh's a little bit better of a team than Louisville, ranks them 42nd. Louisville 47th. Total's 56.5. Sideline gives a tiny bit of a mathematical edge here to playing Pittsburgh and taking the 2.5, though I would wonder if maybe taking the money line would be a smarter investment than taking the 2.5. Of course, again, we talked about 2 being a more key number this year than in years past. Because Jared, what is your take on this one?
I don't really feel good about either side on this one, but I do think I kind of like the over 56.5 here because, you know, we give Pat Narduzzi a hard time, but Pitt has still been reasonably successful on offense this season. And again, anytime that Malik Cunningham is playing, I think maybe the first game of the season, game against Syracuse, they kind of had some hiccups. Was it the UCF game? I think maybe the first game of the season, then Syracuse game, they had some hiccups. But since then, when he's been playing, it's kind of looked like more like what you expected from the offense in Louisville this season. So I think I would probably lean towards the over 56.5. Could I convince you that maybe that should be a B grade?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think like you said, Pittsburgh has been not terrible on offense, not as bad as maybe we've cried that they've been terrible, and they haven't been terrible. Louisville has had some games that can get some points. So I could be talking to a B grade on that. With regards to the side, do you have a lean on that? I mean, 2.5 is a nice number if you want to lay it with Louisville. It's under a field goal. I don't know.
Maybe I can be the deciding factor here.
All right, let's do it.
I really like this Pittsburgh team here. Like in this spot, I like them a lot, especially getting the 2.5. I kind of want to sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Malik Cunningham's coming off the concussion. I'm assuming he plays. If not, I love Pittsburgh all the more. But I mean, Pitt's a decent team. They had a slip up against Georgia Tech, kind of like wipe that from your mind. I know that's hard, but they've taken care of business everywhere else. The opening loss to Tennessee only looks better and better since that's the only time Tennessee hasn't scored 40, and that was in overtime. And Louisville's not the Tennessee offense. That was a Tennessee offense full strength, by the way, too, with Cedric Tillman and everybody else. So, like, I think the defense is a little better. Izzy out of a kind of is a very good running back. He ran for, I think, 3,500 yards last week and like 10 touchdowns.
That is approximately correct.
Yeah. So I think they're going to take advantage of this Louisville team who, has not really impressed me this year. I thought more of them. They're also on this pattern of like win one, lose one every week or every other week. And they beat Virginia, which is nothing to brag about, but they did beat Virginia, so that sets up for a loss this week if the pattern continues. But I really think it really keys on that. I think Pittsburgh's defense is better than what like is better than what most people think, and they can really control the game with Slovis and Advocaanda.
And like we mentioned, right, their offense, we've cried about it, of course, and the Georgia Tech thing was bad, but I mean, they did put up a 34 against Western Michigan, which not that Western Michigan's good, but I mean, they at least did what they should do, which is go put up a point total in the 30s. They got 38 against West Virginia, and they put up 45 against Virginia Tech. Was a pretty impressive output.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Virginia Tech obviously playing at a slower pace and
mainly on the ground too. Because I think the weather was kind of rough that game, so it was mainly handing the ball off.
All right, money line on that one is plus 115 at the moment. A sideline says take Pittsburgh in the 2.5, so I'm good making that the official lean. Cousin Jared, would we get to a B pick at plus 3?
Yeah, we would get to a B pick at plus 3. And the other thing that I would just say for our listeners here is I just did a check, and there are a lot of 55s and a lot of 55s and a halves out there. So we've got a B grade on the over 56.5, but if you can go out and grab a 55, all the better.
Yeah, 55 being, as we talk about, one of the key numbers. So going over that's even better. Last one of the week, 10:30 Eastern, Washington at Cal. Sideline says Washington should be a 10.3 point road favorites. They're actually a 7.5 point road favorite. Total's 56. Washington just outside my top 25. According to Sideline, California ranked 81st. Another situation where I have questions about both of these teams. Obviously, Washington's a much better team, but I do have questions about both of these teams. I'm excited to lay 7.5.
Yeah, the hook makes it very discouraging, I think.
Yeah. Cousin Jared, what are your thoughts here on either the side or the total of 56?
Man. So I guess the first thing I thought of when I saw this was that you might be able to convince me to play an over here, because I know that Cal's offense has just looked absolutely terrible. But man, Washington's defense this year has more or less made everybody that they've played look good. So I think back to the Cal and Arizona game earlier this season when Cal somehow put up 49 points on Arizona, and that has by far been the outlier of Cal's season. But the thing is that, like, you look at Washington's defense,
I was just say, let me interject here. Look at who those games are against, right? Like the UC Davis thing was kind of, but they did put up 34 against them. UNLV, I don't know what to make of them. They've been kind of a disappointment, right? But then Notre Dame is a low-scoring team. Washington State has been better on defense here. Colorado, I mean, again, we don't know what happened, but it's the only like team that they play that mimics the good offense, questionable defense is Arizona, and that game had 80 points in it. So when you just do the comparison styles, like I do think that this sets up to be more like the Arizona game than any of the other games.
Yeah, and so I don't think I would say play the over at 56. I think 55 would probably be my buy point for a B grade, just because it is Cal, and Cal could find a way to make this game super ugly and everything. But man, I would love to lay like 6.5 with Washington. You could talk me into laying 7 with Washington. It'd still be a C grade, still be a lean for me. Just because of all the units on the field, I have the most faith in Washington's offense in this game. But man, that hook just makes it a lot less appealing.
Yeah, I would say officially a lean Washington minus 7.5. I would lean anything single digits with Washington. I would play it as a B grade for sure at 6.5 and maybe even 7. I think obviously 6 is possible, but Washington minus 7, you could maybe talk me into playing and actually investing in. 7.5 though is just that hook. I hate it. So it's a lean for me on Washington minus 7.5. I like you. I like the over there. How do I say this? I'm going to say something that I tend to not say because it tends to, I don't want to bite me in the butt on this one, but I don't think a key number of 55 or 56 matters in this game. I think this is a game that Cal either uglies up and it's in the 30s, or Washington does what Washington does and this game gets to 70. And it doesn't really matter that Cal's involved because you have that Cal-Arizona type game, except flipped where now Washington plays the role of Cal and Cal plays the role of Arizona. I think the latter is what's going to happen in this because we tend to say that the better team tends to dominate the style of the game. Washington should have their way with Cal offensively, and that should lead to more points. So I don't even think the key number part matters. I personally would just go over 56 and not worry about it because, like I said, I think it's more of a game in the 60s up towards 70 despite Cal. And I think if it goes under, it's just going to be an ugly game, and the actual number we get doesn't matter. So I would say all that, and the game's going to land exactly at 55 or 56 because I said that. But
of course.
Can I talk you into the over here as a late night? Let's root for points. Wrapping up our Saturday night.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you can. Yeah, you can talk me into the B grade there. What I would tell you, viewer, is that this opened up at 56.5, went up to 57.5, and has slowly come down the rest of the week to 56. So I don't think 55 is out of the realm of possibility. So, if you are into key numbers, maybe hold on a little bit, but I am fine with giving this a B grade at 56.
And I do agree. You always want to make the smarter play. So if you get a 55, you definitely want to get it. I think there's so much variability in this one that I don't think I could give it an A grade, even at a much lower number. I think this would just be a B grade because, like I said, I think if Cal uglies is up, it's not one that I think I ever want that extra 50% invested on because Cal could do Cal things. I don't think that's going to happen, but it prevents me from really ever making this an A grade play unless we're talking some stupid number that's never going to exist, right? So B grade pick for us on the over 56, and we'll lean Washington minus 7.5. If it gets to 6.5 or 7, maybe let's talk about a B grade pick. But until it gets below that hook, it's a non-starter for us. Jake, what do you got?
I'm actually going to take it with the hook. I think Washington will be able to do that because their offense. But what in the world was Cal doing? Like letting Colorado get a win? What? And by a touchdown too? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, well, it was in overtime. I mean.
Why are you in overtime with Colorado?
Yes, that's the question. The touchdown part is whatever. It's why are you going overtime with Colorado?
I mean, California struggled with the pass here and like recently. In their last three, they're giving up 318 a game. What's one thing Washington does well is throw the ball over the yard. They're at 380 on the year a game, and in their last three, they're up to 395, almost 400. So I think there's going to be tons of points by Washington because I think they're going to be able to throw the ball over the yard. The scary part is they haven't been able to do very well on the road yet this year. They lost to UCLA. That's excusable because, UCLA looks good, but Arizona State is not. You can't lose that game. So I like Washington here to figure that out. I like for it to go over because I don't see California stopping this Washington, and Washington's defense is going to make the Cal quarterback look like a Heisman winner.
And last week got Colorado all the way up to 121st in your rankings. They are shooting up the board after that win against Cal.
I have no words.
I keep scrolling up to try to find the next closest Power 5 team to them, and I've been scrolling for a while and have yet to find it. Northwestern at 101 is the next. So the next closest Power 5 team is 20 spots ahead of them.
Wait, and it's Northwestern? Northwestern's 20 spots better than my gosh. And California let them win. Although I do have to caution you viewer on this. It's so tough with football because one team, the styles, they don't show up right, the weather, the travel, the whatever, someone's hitting on someone else's girlfriend. Who the heck knows, right? With what's going on. And it's like one game can make you look really bad. It's just so tough to know how to deal with that because that California, it makes you see that and you're like, I'm going to fade California every game the rest of the year, right? But it's they aren't that bad. But, I mean, that was really bad. Like, Colorado was terrible. And being tied, going to overtime alone is the problem. And then you lost it, right? So it's like they're not that bad. But, I mean, it's hard to get that out of your brain because that was just a disastrous approach. Because Colorado is extremely terrible. And that just being 20 spots behind Northwestern, who were basically like on auto-fade territory because people think Northwestern's not bad and they are bad. And this seems 20 points worse than that, or 20 spots worse than that. I don't know. Yeah. What a depressing way to end all the games. Jake, give us some excitement with some picks.
The first one I got for you. I'm going to take an alternate line on Appalachian State minus 24.5. I may have looked at the score.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
It finished at 25.
I was like, what is happening? Well played.
No, but for the first one, I'm going to take Georgia Tech -3. Collins, what are you doing, buddy? This team has actually had some talent to it, and you just didn't want it to be. I don't know, but Virginia is very bad. Like, I don't know how they broke Armstrong, but they broke him. He's been sacked 19 times this year, which is terrible. And he's got more carries than their running back. So, I mean, that means he's running for his life most of the time. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns. So I think Georgia Tech gets this one. And jump on the Duke train. I mean, North Carolina is better team than Miami, and Duke hung right with them, and Miami couldn't put Virginia Tech away. So I think that's easy. I'm gonna grab Texas A&M at -3.5. I think.
Okay.
I just have a poor opinion of South Carolina and Switzerland.
We're gonna screen grab the faces that cousin Jared and I made, and someone's gonna look smart and someone's gonna look dumb.
I was gonna say A&M's probably gonna win by 17 now.
I am very much willing to look dumb on this one because I just have a terrible opinion of Spencer Rattler. He was supposed to be good coming in, and I think he's got the worst QBR in the conference now. So he's just bad, and South Carolina's not doing anything to help him out. Going to jump on Wake Forest. Boston College is the ACC version of South Carolina. I'm going to take Buffalo plus the points here and the over. Both these teams have good offenses, not great defenses. I think there's a lot of points getting scored. I think these teams get to play in the 30s, and that gets us over to the 60, over the 59 or 57, and the 57. I think is where it's at. And take the +7. Going to take the under the Bowling Green Central Michigan. Central Michigan likes playing these low-scoring games, and Bowling Green just doesn't like playing winning football. So I think this goes under. So where's the next one I got marked? UCLA. I'm not sure there's a touchdown difference between UCLA and Oregon. So I'm going to grab the points there. Going to take LSU. I think LSU is a good team. They just went on the road to Florida, won that one, looked pretty good doing it. I'm actually going to take LSU on the money line also. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Being at home in a night game, I think it's that Death Valley is just going to be crazy. And Ole Miss has been flirting with fire all year. I think this is where it comes. Going to jump on Baylor too. I think it's down to 7.5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to take Purdue. I think Purdue is being underrated for some reason. I don't understand why they aren't favored here. It kind of confuses me, so this is one I'm taking the money line on because I don't think Wisconsin's got their defense playing as well we thought they would be. They definitely don't have the offense, and so I'm going to take Purdue here, and that is my last one because there's not a line out for Tennessee and UT Martin because I want UT Martin in that one if that comes around.
There will be a line on that.
Yeah,
it'll probably be Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yeah, if I catch it.
I sign up on Patreon, folks, and you can see my friend Jake taking. I don't know how many points he's going to get with UT Martin. It's going to be a lot. I get this. I get the sentiment. There's definitely going to be a little bit of letdown spot here. Cousin Jared, at the risk of contradicting something either one of us potentially said on our first episode of the week, when we first talked about Buffalo, Toledo, the total was 61.5. It's down to 57. As Jake just pointed out, that's quite a drop.
I'm wondering if there's like a weather situation or something, because that does seem a little bit low, in my opinion.
It does seem a little bit low.
I didn't check the weather stuff, so I might get bet on that. But
we are at the point of the year where we start having to check the weather. We talked about this today in the Patreon. There are some totals that have dropped. When you look at the winds, we have to be looking at what direction the winds are going, which makes it a little bit tougher, obviously, because unless you got a database that has the orientations to stadiums, you just got to do a little bit more legwork, pull up Google Maps, which is what I did. Looking at the weather, 68 degrees on Saturday in Buffalo, which is where this game is being played, and wind is 13 miles an hour. So, I mean, it's not going to be that windy to really mess things up. So, It doesn't look like a bad weather spot. So, I mean, I feel like, should we jump on the over 57 as well?
Yeah, let's go B grade over 57, Buffalo, Toledo.
All right. That's what I was thinking too. When Jake said that, when he just said that, I was like, what was that number when we talked about it? Because that seems low, right, for those two teams.
And another reason to become a Patreon subscriber, because the professor will take a look at the stadium orientations on Google Maps and tell you the effects of the wind on what the total should be. It's just another valuable thing that you get when you become a Patreon member.
Yeah, well, there were 3 games that were discussed. And so on Discord, I outlined all 3 situations and I looked up the stadium orientations and I was like, this one's got winds behind their back. It doesn't matter. This one's got winds side to side. It does matter. This one's got a little bit cross, so it might not, right? So yes, on Discord, these are the type of information you can get is you can listen, you can hear me give I'm not even a meteorologist, but I can look on Google Maps and look at stadium orientations and tell you when the wind matters or not. But the thing is, I'm not like baseball. Baseball, I've built code to bring the weather in for every game. I have stadium orientations. I haven't done that for football. Maybe one day. That's like a lot of work. Maybe one day I'll do that. But if so, until then, you have to manually look this stuff up unless someone's got a database out there. Someone probably does it. I don't know if they charge for it or not, but I have not found it. So if someone has that link, drop it in the chat, and that way the rest of us can benefit off of someone else's work. If they're sharing for you guys or not, then maybe someone pays for it because it's a valuable resource.
We got 2 questions before we move on. You get off my kill the clock here. So on the totals, I know you kind of went through these before. Like, all right, so it's Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio. Like, are we thinking is under sound good? Like, I know it's at 45.
Yeah. Did we get the 45 and a half, or was it 45 when we locked it in on the first episode? I think it was 45.
We got an A grade under 45 and a half, and it's down to 44.
Yeah.
Would you play that under 44? Was that still?
Yep.
Because all right, I'm gonna add that one then, because I don't.
I think we talked about that one too. We were kind of saying like, maybe 41 or like at some point.
Low.
44 still we play.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add the under there, and then the Colorado and Oregon State under that one seems good. Like that's what at 48 and a half now.
Yeah, we locked it in at 50 and a half on the first episode. I don't remember what grade we gave it, but
we gave it an A grade at 50 and a half. I think 48 and a half might be an A grade, and that might be the limit.
Yes,
I agree. That's where I was going for, because since it dropped to 2 points, I was like, a little question, because I don't know what's going on in Oregon State, hurt, not hurt, whatever. And then Colorado is just Colorado.
Yeah.
50 is a really hard number to land on, and 49 isn't that common. People think, it divides by 7, but it's unlikely for him to have 7 touchdowns and no field goals. So 49 and 50 are kind of not pivotal numbers. Yeah, 48 and a half, I would still definitely A grade under on that one.
Yeah, then I'm going to add that one to my list too.
All right. Gentlemen, any parting words?
I'm just so glad that Jake is here to carry the Maction segment. He really adds a lot of value to this show, for sure.
If I'm going to live this close to most of the action teams, might as well.
It's true. It's true, right? I'm the Big 12 expert, living in that part of the country. You got to bring them action expertise. And hey, maybe one day, maybe the future of this show is we end up with like 5 or 6 different people, and like everybody like covers, a conference or something as an expert in that, conference or 2, So maybe we gotta reach out and expand our expertise,
Yeah, all we got to do is get Jake to come back, and he can cover.
It's not going to be hard. It's not going to be hard.
No.
I just want to do the same thing for basketball, so we can put somebody in what is it, the West Coast Conference that goes from Florida to Washington. Let somebody try to cover that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, when they've got like teams like they still got Chicago still in the WAC. It's the WAC, not the West Coast. West Coast, the WAC. Yeah. The WAC. I think like Chicago State's in the WAC, and so is like Grand Canyon, and so is like Seattle, and so is
like Lamar. So am I in WAC country? That's only like an hour away from me. So I guess maybe I'm in WAC country.
I think we all are in WAC country.
At this point,
do you live in America? Yes, then you're in WAC country. Don't live in America? You're probably not far from it, to be honest.
Yes, this is wonderful. We have digressed from a college football show to a WAC basketball at the end. I knew Jake was ready for college basketball season. I said it on one of the. Yeah, I said it on one of the episodes earlier this week.
Trying to find tickets to the Champions Classic here that are reasonable. It's very hard to do.
Yeah,
it makes me sad.
All right. Well, now that we've officially gone off the rails, so we'll wrap this up. Thanks for tuning in another episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can share all the sports betting content we've run on this channel. It's dropped right into your feed. This is all of the college football content for this week. So best of luck in your week 8 betting action. Again, 2 other episodes in case you haven't seen them yet, already out. And then baseball. Every day that there are playoff games, still rolling right along with those baseball picks. So as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.